Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everybody for coming back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. Today is Wednesday, November the 5th, 2025. I wanted to come here and make a video about this because I just want to say hi to everybody here on Spotify who's watching. I wanted to come and make a video about this because I heard about this case for so many years. I think a lot of people have, right? And it's still there's no solution. And it's another sad case regarding a missing child. And this case happened in 2007. And this is in regards to the Madeleine McCann case. And I believe this happened in Portugal, right? She was vacationing with her mom, with her parents, and two other siblings. And one night, the parents left the children in the house that they were staying in, and they were just going over, I believe, to a restaurant very nearby. And when they returned back, Madeline was gone. And it's one of those cases. I remember watching America Most Wanted, watching, the news about it, and just seeing the parents being investigated over and over again. And it's like, man, how can nobody see anything, right? How can there still be no answer? So it's one of those cases, I guess you can say, that haunts you. Again, this is the case about Madeleine McCann, and I'm gonna tell you there's some breaking news about it, which is something that I didn't even know it was happening to them or it happened to the parents in the past. But before I continue, of course, thank you so much to everybody who's following me, who's following Julissa Design Podcast on Spotify. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Spotify. It helps me as a creator. And also you can rate the podcast. And of course, everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube, thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. So I had no idea that for some time the parents of Madeleine McCann were being taunted or stalked, I guess you can say, by a young lady who claimed to be that she was Madeleine McCann. Imagine that, right? You lose your child goes missing, as you can say. There's no answer, there's no witnesses, there nobody knows anything. And you have this guilt because you left your kids, I guess you can say, um, they were taking turns, if I'm not mistaken, the parents were taking turns to check on the kids, right? Like I said, they went to a bar or to a restaurant very close by, and one of them will be like, okay, you go check on them, and the other one, okay, it's my turn now. And they were switching back and forth, and then to return and have a child missing, how crazy is that, right? And there was so much information that came out throughout the years about the parents and how they spoke about the daughter and how, how responsible they were. So many people against the parents. There's still no answer about it, right? We still don't know what happened to Madeleine McCann. And there were posters, and there were people saying she's this person, this and the other. And then I had no idea, like I was saying, that a Polish woman was accused of stalking Madeleine McCann's parents and claiming to be the missing girl, has just had her day in court. And let me read to you guys exactly what's going on. Her name is Julia Wandelt, 24 years old. She is currently on trial in England following an incident in December of 2024. 24 years old, She showed up at the McCann's home demanding they take a DNA test. She was sequentially charged with stalking. While under cross-examination, Julia became emotional and testified and said, actually, okay, after now she's in trial, and she said, actually, I don't care anymore. I'm just exhausted with the whole thing. Imagine this person showing up to their to Madeleine McCann's parents and saying, take a DNA now because I know you are my parents and my name is Madeleine McCann. That's crazy. How did she even find out the others, right? I think that's where the stalking part comes in. And like to do that to a family, like it's just so sad, you guys. Julia claimed for years to be Madeleine and finally got in contact with Madeleine's younger sister, Amelie, on social media in January 2024. After failed attempts to contact her parents, Amelie previously testified that she thought she could deal with the stalking herself. Amelie also told the court that Julia tried to convince her that she was her sister and even went so far as to share memories she had of the time she had spent with her sister before her disappearance. She added that her mother was affected the most by Julia's actions, saying it took a toll on her well-being. So it really imagine this. This is like a psychological abuse to a second degree level, because you're claiming to be somebody that has been missing from this family for so many years. You're claiming to be that person. You're making up stories, reaching out to them on social media, and then one day, because your efforts are not being, I guess you can say, considered enough, uh, you show up at their house. Like, that's so traumatizing. And by December 2024, so just about a year ago, Julia traveled to Madeleine's parents' home, where she demanded the missing girl's father to submit a DNA test. The next day, Julia returned to her home and left a letter on their door that she addressed to Kay McCann, which is Madeleine's mom, and signed her as her missing daughter. However, a DNA test showed that she was not the missing girl who was born 2 years after her. So McCann was just 3 years old. So Madeleine was just 3 years old at the time when she vanished from her bed at her family's vacation apartment in Praia da Luz, Portugal, on May 3rd, 2007. I remember watching the story, guys. Like I said, and the thing is, like, when something like this happens to a family, so you have to be so careful, because usually, right, in crimes, after you watch a lot of crime stories and follow cases and things like that, the main suspect, right, is normally the person who sees the victim last, right? But you need to understand, I think, family with children, they have to be extra careful, because there are sickos out there, right? And they follow your every move and things like this, and they're just waiting for an opportunity that you're not paying enough attention. Can parents do horrible things too? Yes, of course. But in this case, right, um, the family going through that guilt, right? Like I said, leaving the kids and just taking turns back and forth and being called irresponsible. How can you do that? You're in a different country. You should have never done that. Um, the way they were like harassed already in the media, right, by people with different opinions, not even knowing what actually happened. The way they were harassed, the way they were portrayed, right? Everything they say is super analyzed, because there's a missing person. So for this young girl, 24 years old, to come out and seek after them, right? And even though, like, she couldn't realize the day, like, there was a discrepancy in the age compared to Madeleine's age, right? So that tells you, a lot of things, right? So there's a lot of people dealing with mental health, right? And a lot of people dealing with mental health. And Madeline's sister said that she didn't share, I guess you can say, the stalking with the people in the beginning with her parents, because she's like, oh, it's another one of those, right? I'm sure, the thing with this case, I'm sure she wasn't like the only one who did that, right? It's almost like people speak about the John Bonet case, right? I mean, that also happened many years ago. Still no answer on that. I'm sure throughout the years, the family encounters people that say a lot of things, right? A lot of good things, a lot of mean things, and then you have the pretenders, right? So maybe that's why the sister kind of like dismissed it a little bit in this case with the stalking, and then this woman shows up at their house and she's demanding that the father takes the DNA test. So somewhere along the line in her life, somebody led her to believe that she was actually Madeline, right? Because wow, I mean, where are her parents, right? Where are her siblings, her family? That nobody could have said to her, well, something's off. You like that's not you at all, right? Um, so it's very sad they have to go through this, and now this case is in trial, like I said, and then after all of that, this case goes to trial. After all the timing and after all the timing, the harassment and the mental anguish, I guess you can say, and then she's being asked in the trial, and she's like, what was her answer? She's like, I don't care anymore. I'm just so tired of the whole thing. See, it's just, she actually said, Julia became emotional and testified, actually, I don't care anymore. I'm just exhausted by the whole thing. So that's her answer now, right? So let me read you guys some of the comments here. Somebody said there is no suitable punishment for the people who take children. And then somebody said that girl is not right in her head. I am sure that over the years this has been expressed already, but the dining at a restaurant while your kids are sleeping alone. See, there's a thing. I remember about this case. People were so hard on the parents, saying, "How can you, um, you know, how can you leave them there and go dining?" They expressed so many times how they took turns, and I can understand. I can understand that maybe when they got to Portugal and they saw the area and they saw where they were staying, and it felt to them like it was safe, but the big red flag about this is just that they're not locals, right? Just because you show up one day doesn't mean that you know how everything operates, right? On a daily basis, and maybe that was the thing that that they kind of felt for on that. They were kind of like they misjudged how the area was, um, but they were taking turns back and forth, and each time they saw their daughter there sleeping into one time they went and she wasn't there. And then I remember about this case was the big thing about, oh, maybe she just got woke up, she has a walk-in and she was wandering off, right? And she went to whoever, like, to a different house. So then let's see what other people say here. Absolutely, by a woman. She was told it wasn't true over and over, but kept coming back to haunt them. And then people say there's a special place for people like that. You guys know where. So yeah, it's very sad that they still have to deal with something like this. I believe, I don't know how long ago in this case there was a sketch. There was a witness actually that came forward. I remember this, and they say they saw a man walking down the street, kind of like carrying a child, right? And there was a sketch that was um, produced and like released to the press, and it was just like out of somebody who said, I saw somebody carrying a child. And like I said, there are a lot of sickos out there. Everybody knows that, right? And people, I think this is the um the misjudgment that the parents probably did, because they got to a place that they thought it looks very quiet, very safe. Everything seems normal here. It's gonna be fine if we just go and take turns back and forth to check on the kids, probably not knowing the daily activities that happen in the area, and who lives around there too, right? So I don't remember exactly what came out of that sketch with the guy carrying a child, but it's just, one of those cases that you hope and pray that one day gets resolved, right? And we have seen lately so many things that are coming up to the surface, right? And it's almost like you kind of like excited to see something be resolved. So I'm actually gonna pray for that. I'm gonna pray that the Madeleine McCann case comes has a solution soon, and that we know exactly what happened. If she's still alive, that she comes forward. And whoever did that to her, took her away from her family, whoever did that will face justice, right? So let me know, guys, what you think about this case. You guys probably, if you're clicking, watching this video, listening to the podcast, you probably know more about this case than I do. So you feel free to leave a comment. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to the channel. Thank you, everybody, for listening in the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. God bless.